Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we're speaking with an athlete who started competing in 2011 and earned her pro status in 2013. She has competed in over 25 shows and uses her experience as a VIP competitive and transformation coach for Bombshell Fitness. I just had the pleasure of going to BombieCon, not just having the experience, but also speaking and contributing there. And I got to meet this wonderful woman in person. So happy to welcome to the show, Angeles Burke, Tchividjian. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're so welcome. I just am very excited to get your insights, hear your experience and your perspectives. And before we get into everything, I love to ask if there's something you think about or do, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Ooh, right before my heel hits the stage. Honestly, I sit there, take a couple deep breaths, and it's more just saying like a little prayer, a prayer of gratitude more than anything, because it's like I made it here and thankful for the people that helped me along the way, and like let's go up there and have a good time. The hard work's over, right? So that's kind of like the best thing, and just keeping that heart rate under control, say that little prayer, and then boom, it's like you get out there and it's amazing. It's the best feeling ever.
I love that. It is really the best feeling. And if you can like ground yourself before in that way, it helps you, I think, stay present to experience it.
Yes, yeah, take it all in because it goes by so fast.
It does. And you've been doing this for many years. And just last year, you got back up on stage after taking time off since 2016. So I want to hear
Yes.
your perspective. Like, how has it changed over the years? And what did it mean for you to get back up there?
Yeah, I mean, the whole just division, I feel like has changed so much for bikini. Um, when I had first started, the look was a little bit of a softer look. You still had to train and you still had to diet, but the level of conditioning that the athletes are bringing to the stage today, I mean, my winning physique back in 2013, 14, 15 wouldn't even come close to some of these bodies. So I had to take that into account when I said, hey, like I really want to get back up there. Is it even possible? So it took a lot of time, to get back there. It wasn't necessarily that I had a lot of like body fat to lose so much, and to say as it was more like I just wanted to make sure that I was going to get up there and I was going to bring a better package than the last time I brought to the stage, because it's a subjective sport. I can't control the judges, right? I can't control that, but you can tell in a picture, you can do some self critique on areas you need to improve upon. And so that was my biggest thing. I just wanted to get up there, look better than I did. And I also wanted to look the part too. I'm like, I'm coming back. And so for the people who know me, it's like, I don't want to look like some just washed up, So I revamped everything. I revamped my hair. I used to go signature straight jet black. I did my natural curly hair. Switched my suit color to a bright green, beautiful green. I'd never done that before. Even like the connector style, I switched that up. My posing routine was a little bit sexier too, because now the pros, I mean, we're up there for a while. So I needed to make sure that I stood my ground there live in person, not just only in the pictures that you see up on like NPC News Online. So I wanted like that live presentation to kind of to hold its own too. So yeah, and to get back up there, it wasn't only just about, okay, I want to do this, but it was also a reality check with myself on, okay, why did I stop competing? And am I ready to get back up on stage, and all the things that it entails, because competing is hard, but it's a self-inflicted hard. I tell people that I'm like, this is your
Mhm.
choice to do this. So you're either in or you're out. You can't be kind of like halfway. So I had taken some time off in the past because I accomplished what I wanted to do. My goal was I wanted to go to the Olympia, and I was very honored and blessed to make it to the 2015 Olympia. And then once I did that, I felt like the drive just really wasn't there. My goal was never to be Miss Olympia. So maybe if that would have been my goal, I'd probably been like, I'm going to keep going. But I really wanted to accomplish that. And once I did, I felt great. And I was very happy staying within the sport, but just not on the competitive stage. And then also, I was noticing, from a mental standpoint too, that my relationship with my body, my relationship with food, those kinds of things, it wasn't in, I feel like, the healthiest or best state. So I was starting to recognize that. And when it no longer is fun, and when you're like obsessing over things a little bit too much, so much about like mental health and body image and loving yourself, right? And I was starting to be like, things are getting a little shaky here. So I took the time off, and it was the best decision for me personally. Because once I did get back up on stage, the questions I was telling you, where I needed to do that reality check with myself, it was like, do you love yourself right now? Because getting on stage, you are in top level conditioning, but it's not going to last forever. So if you're chasing that look, remember, it's not going to be like that forever. So do you love who you are right now? Like those kinds of things, can you maintain your diet? Are you going to not feel like the urge to be binging? Are you going to just all those little things? And I think that comes with the break from the stage, the maturity, and also just the self-love that I gained in those 5 years. So that's when I was like, all right, let's do it. And so I got back up there, and it was a blast. It was a total blast.
That is so cool. I love that you gave yourself the space to take the time away, and you honored that your mindset wasn't where you wanted it to be. And you specifically identified that it was the self-love, it was the body image, it was the food relationship. What were some of those red flags, or maybe feelings of being rocky or not where you wanted to be after that 2015 Olympia, and then like that last push of your season? Like, what was it that you recognized and knew it was time to step away?
Yeah, I had spent a lot of that time. I was just really dialed. I had a bunch of sponsorships. I just was so into the industry. But outside of it, I was almost like a little bit of a recluse. I feel like I wasn't really living life the way that I should have been. But that's because my goals and my dreams and my desire, that just made it easier for me to stick with things. But then it got to the point where it's like, okay, I've been doing this for like half a decade now. Like, okay, like maybe you need
Yeah.
to live a little, that kind of thing. Um, so that was a little bit of a thing for me there. And then also, um, just feeling like, just like impulsive about like food and the control about it. I'm like, okay, this is getting to the borderline, like a little obsessive here. Like, and you
Mhm.
have to be, when you're competing, you have to be strict. The switch goes off, and I don't know what it is, but it's like, what, for me at least, when I'm in it, I'm in it. Like no one can tell me anything. I don't care. You're not going to guilt me. Like this is my journey. I'm the one
Totally.
getting on stage in a tiny little itty bitty bikini. So you're not going to make me feel bad because I didn't eat whatever. So, but then when it was just like a little bit too much, that was a little bit of a red flag. And then also I would just, if my weight was going up, if even during off season or improvement season, like, yeah, you need to put on some body fat, like that's a healthy thing, but it was like messing with my psyche, and I'm like, this
Mhm.
is not okay. So that was my red flag, and I'm happy that it didn't get to a bad point, but I've recognized that. And before it became like too late, or before I was like having some serious issues. So just little things like that to be mindful of. And now, like, I'm in my, I guess, my life season since I'm
Mhm.
not planning on stepping on stage anytime soon. But yeah, it's like after the show, like I've put on some body fat, I'm at a healthy weight. And because of that time off, and like I said, learning that self love, it's just been a lot easier this time. And I just respect my body a little bit more, and know that my body fat and my weight does not value like determine my value and who I am as a person and as a human being. So, not letting those things control your day. Like I work with women for my career. Like that's what I do. And so many women put so much emphasis and value into that number on the scale or what clothing size they are. And I've been there, like I'm saying, so I
Mhm.
understand those feelings and I can like relate, but it's not a fun place to live. So learning those things, and it takes time, and it takes just giving yourself grace, those are just kind of like some of the little things and changes that I saw.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of times the self-consciousness and the body image or the fixation on food or the scale changing, like if you have years in a row where you're positively being reinforced for looking a particular way, or
Mm-hmm.
you're getting used to being judged, like you're in a sport where you are stepping on stage to be judged on your physique, like this creates that reinforcement and that association that there is some value or worth of yours that comes from your physique, or at least it can perpetuate that story.
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
when we're like working to change that, or we enter into a life season and the body changes because it needs to, it can be challenging. And I think
Yeah.
that a lot of people realize that those thoughts can actually keep them from being present in the moment, but they'll still struggle with it. So, how do you see your body now compared to when you started bodybuilding?
Honestly, I am just more hyper aware. So my background, I grew up horseback riding. I started at age of 5 and did, competitions all the way up until college. My horse even moved with me to college.
Wow.
So that was my, sports, so to say. I never played any kind of team sports, like, soccer or anything at school, none of that. I found bodybuilding or just like fitness in college. And so I just didn't have any like awareness about body, like my body or about nutrition at all. So then it was in college, I'm like living alone for the first time, like doing that. And then it just makes you a lot more aware. So it can go in different ways, right? Where you get people who are hyper fixated in a negative way. But then I'm also very thankful that it's given me the opportunity to learn so much about the human body, about nutrition, and just about training in general. Like I'm so glad that I did have this opportunity to do all this, because it is something that's I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my life. Like a show or not, I will always train. It's literally my therapy. So
Mm.
it's like it doesn't necessarily matter as much. Like there's, I feel like a certain like weight that my body is most comfortable at, that I just feel like I move better at. I feel, because I'm all more about just how do I feel. Like if you
Yeah.
are like rail thin and you feel horrible, like that's not fun either. So it's definitely post competing. It's just that I have an awareness that I would have probably never had, had I just, gone through college and just lived my life and never did it. And who knows? I don't know, like if I would have found fitness or what it would have been. It may be something, because like I said, it is my therapy. It feels so good. Someone probably would have invited me to like a group fitness class, and I would have been like, this feels great. I love this. So yeah, but that's kind of the thing now. It's just more like it's a beneficial way.
I love that. And it seems like that awareness of your body is not just, it's not necessarily just like physique. It's also like, how am I functioning? How am I
Yes.
feeling?
Yeah.
And do you have like daily habits that support you in paying attention to those things, or maybe grounding you in the process? So as you've re-entered the sport, like you've been able to kind of mitigate those red flags from popping up where it was over fixation?
Yeah. So like for example, right now I'm not necessarily full blown like on any kind of like meal plan, but
Mhm.
I do try to make sure like my protein intake is at a certain level, just those kinds of things, making sure I'm still getting my water, getting my adequate sleep, like those small things, people don't realize it. It makes a huge difference. Like your hydration, your sleep, your stress. If you're trying to maintain some lean muscle mass, making sure your protein intake is up, like it helps you stay satisfied, throughout the day. So you don't feel like you're having all these cravings. But that's all stuff that you do when you're like in, the full blown thing of prep. But then of course you're measuring out things a lot more. And then also I listen to my body a little bit more intuitively, as opposed to like, I'm on a set meal plan, I need to eat, like it has to be so regimented for contest prep. Yeah. But for right now, it necessarily doesn't have to be. Like if I'm not physically hungry, I don't need to force myself to eat right now, because my goals are very different than it is for when I'm trying to get lean and conditioned for the stage. But breaking out of that habit, post show is a little hard, because it's like I'm into that routine of like, I'm measuring every single thing out, I'm tracking everything, I'm logging everything. So trying to break out of that so that it doesn't become some kind of hyper fixation. I try to be like aware with myself on that. Be like, okay, don't get too crazy. It's like, it's okay. It's okay to have a little bit of leniency and everything. But yeah, just kind of being a little bit real with myself too. And then every now and then just taking like some pictures just to hold myself accountable, is a nice thing too.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think sometimes we can get stuck in thinking we always have to be on that like prep mentality no matter what. And it sounds like you've really found what works for you to come into and out of a season productively. And I think something people forget or maybe don't understand, or it's hard to allow yourself to kind of learn this lesson. But when we give ourselves freedom, we're giving ourselves choice. And when we have choice, we're empowered. And when we make a choice that's coming from like our values or our goals or the things that we care about or how we want to feel, like it's a mindful choice, our self-esteem goes up. And all of this is to say that if we over restrict or we have expectations that are unrealistic or we put too much pressure on ourselves, we usually end up falling into those negative habits and behaviors and judgment and criticism. And it sounds like for you, you've really given yourself these commitments and standards that you maintain regardless of the season, and then commitments and standards that are more flexible in an improvement season, but still allow you to support your goals.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things, Valentina Sabella is a registered dietitian that I work with, and she's just so awesome. One of the things that she said, I don't know if this is her quote, but I quote it to my girls all the time from her, but she said that there's no bad food, there's just poor choices. That has revolutionized my life, because coming from having to be very, very restricted, in preps in the past, where it's like it needs to be this or else, like if it's not, then you failed, the day is shot, like that. um and learning over the years about macronutrients and how different things fuel the body differently, and like, okay, if you don't have this source of protein, you could have this. You don't have this source of carbs, you could have that. That's been very helpful. So it's like, okay, the whole day isn't shot, you just like flip flop something like that. And like I said, when I was just younger and getting into the thing, it'd be like, if, oh my gosh, one little thing was off, you feel like you wrecked it.
Yeah.
And then also coming into an improvement season, because post show people just want to eat everything. They want, like, everyone's taking pictures of their donuts and their cookies and like all the whatever, but it can get hard. That can spiral really quick, because then it's like you've had a bite of it and then you want more and more and more. So after those, few days or meals or whatever, if you're working with a coach and they're helping you reverse out of a show, if you give that, if you think about how there is no bad food, there's just poor choices. So you're putting yourself in control, right? You're not putting the food in control, that the food is bad and I can't because blah. That makes it so that it's not off limits. And I feel like it's not as tempting. It's just like when you're telling a kid, like, you can't do this or you can't do that. That's all they want to do. That's all they're going to think about, having that thing. So it's the same thing when you're an adult. We're just grown up kids, So doing that really has helped me, where it's like, okay, if you want to have a bite of whatever, obviously if you're in your improvement season, it's fine. It's not going to ruin it. Have that be part of your refeed meal if it's something that you want, and then move on, as opposed to like, it's bad and I can't have it and I need to wait till my show and then do your post show binge. And it's just, it's a total mess. And I think it's just really, I don't even know what the right word for it would be, but it's just so like skewed, that like that way of thinking. But so many of us have it or experience it at a certain time because of like the kind of restriction that comes with and the discipline that comes with the training.
Yes, definitely. And that is something that I have. That's what I do, is help competitors with their food relationship and with their body image and how they relate to their goals. It's mental. And a lot of times I think it comes down to expectations. Like, people think it has to be a particular way, but if we can kind of look at how am I perceiving these choices, or what's guiding the perception of these choices, we're more empowered to make better ones. And so
Yes.
it's like, it's not that you can't have, I don't know, an Oreo on prep. It's that maybe having an Oreo on prep when your macros are as low as they are isn't going to sustain you or give you the energy or the fuel you need. But as you
Right.
get higher so we can be mindful with the decisions we make. And I think too, having like fair expectations, or knowing what to expect from this lifestyle, whether it's red flags or, things to just be aware of that come with it, can help us to then accept it. And when you guys were, I should say, before I went and gave my speech, you and Asia were talking about the differences between prep and improvement season. And I was hoping you could share, like, what do you notice in particular that you guys expect of your clients, or that you personally like kind of bring into that relationship with a client, as well as like what your expectations are for yourself or when you're traveling.
Right. Yeah, honestly, the honesty is the biggest thing.
Mhm.
Because it's crazy. A lot of times in prep with our contest prep clients, it's like once they hit that 4 weeks out mark, all of a sudden like things, that body fat starts dropping off, the weight's coming down, like all this, because it's the like, oh crap moment. Like, oh my gosh, I already signed up for the show. I bought my plane ticket. Like, so then people start buckling down. And then all those little corners that they were starting, trying to cut, like, hey, I'm going to do this for my cardio, even though it says, this, or, I've been adding this XYZ, dressing, or, it's, I've been swapping out my carbs for Oreos, whatever it may be,
Mhm.
cause they're like, it fits on my macros. I'm hitting my macros. So that just the honesty, the transparency, because I look at any kind of just fitness, and when you're following a plan, and especially when we're in contest prep, as a science project, there's different variables that we're trying to manipulate here, right? So if you're manipulating a variable behind my back, I have no idea, and you don't tell me until later, it's very hard for me to figure out what's going on and what can I change. If you're already cutting your own carbs and I'm then going to cut even more, you know what I'm saying? So that
Exactly.
honesty piece is so important. Just let us know. You're not going to get in trouble. You're not going to get, slap on the wrist. It's like, that's the only way we can help you. So just that piece, and then the open communication, with what's going on is good too, and how you're feeling, like that kind of feedback, as opposed to just like, okay, I'm doing it. Okay, I'm doing it. Like, provide us like with how's the intensity, that kind of thing. And then, yeah, once, like I said, that switch has got to go off when it's in, like, you're in prep, you travel, got to bring your food, you just have to make it work. And it's not always easy. But yeah, that is literally the only way. I feel like when you try to just mess around with stuff and be like, well, I'm just going to eat out here and eat out there, and I'm going to
Mhm.
try to eyeball things, then they just end up maintaining for the most part, or they're inflamed because they've had more sodium than they normally do because they were eating out, so it's just that you just got to be just super strict. And most preps for the most part are 12 to 16 weeks, when it's like a, okay, we're dialing it in. But we like to talk about pre-prep or your improvement season, because as in your 10 weeks, 8 weeks, no one's like packing on the muscle. Like that muscle should pretty much be there. And we're spending that time trying to dial down the body fat, keep those lifts super, super heavy. So yeah, just being strict with yourself during that time. And if you look at it like that, that one, like I said at the beginning, this is all self-inflicted. You want it. This is your choice. Like, let's go. You just got to suck it up and get it done. And then you can just relax and figure out your game plan with your coach on your reverse for afterward.
Absolutely. And, I think people get nervous when they hear you have to be strict or you have to be on top of it. But this is a choice, like you said. And like, we're just driving home the fact that it's strict to the standards you've set and that you and your coach have established. And once you commit to this, if you can execute day in and day out to the best of your ability and at 100%, then you know that everything you did when you walk off that stage was done with a purpose, with the intention, and you didn't sell yourself short. And some people look at it like, oh, being strict is bad. This is a discipline. I don't have it. It's like, no. And I was talking about this at BombCon actually, but like people think they need control, they need discipline, they need willpower. What they need is congruency. Like you have to have congruency with where it is you're going, so your goals, and then who it is you're showing up as. Like your identity has to be aligned with the actions, or your actions with your identity. And a lot of people have that missing piece because they haven't dug deeper, like into their why or into their reasoning. And I think that also stunts people from having longevity in this sport. And you are an example of someone who has longevity, and you've proven that. And you've not only proven that as an athlete, but staying involved in the industry and coaching. So when you think about your why, I'm imagining it's probably evolved over time just based on what you shared earlier. But
yes,
what is it that drives you now, especially now that you've done your life season, you healed a lot with your internal, you reflected on, I'm ready to prep again, you came back, you did your season, and now you're into life season again. Like, what is it that drives you?
Yeah, so before it was very much when I first had started competing. Well, my first show was literally like I'm going to do a show, and just to do it, I wanted the challenge. And then that spiraled into like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I want to go to nationals and I want to get my pro card. It was like that. Right. So that was always my drive. I was wanting to get to the next level, And then that was what my goal was, the Olympia. And I'm like, all right, that was it. Right. So that was that season. I was trying to almost like climb the ranks. That was literally my why. I didn't care about really anything else. That was it. Coming back, my why was 100% different. Didn't care about placing, because all those things when I was trying to level up, you have to place in certain ways in order to get to that next level. So my placings really mattered. Like, it's like you're bummed if you're like not in the top 5, you didn't get points for the Olympia, you didn't, like those kinds of things. This time it was just to show up better and to prove to myself that I could do it again. That was like the thing. So my motivation was very intrinsic. So that was pretty cool, having experienced the competitive stage on both different, like totally different sides, So, and then now, just for me to keep going, just for like lifestyle stuff, like I mentioned, I just want to feel good. And then also I work with people for a living, like, and I want to be a good role model. I want to be a good example for my kids. I want them to live an active lifestyle and have a good role model and learn about like just healthy foods and just kind of like walk the walk kind of thing. I don't need to be contest prep shredded to do that, but I just want to just maintain like just a certain level of, fitness. And that makes me happy as long as I can be that light for people.
That's awesome. And what was your experience like with that deeper intrinsic why and less attachment to trophies or outcomes or placings or points, things of that nature? Like, how was your experience different as a competitor?
It was great because, like I said, it wasn't about that placement. So I had nothing to lose because I already knew getting on stage that I looked better than the last time I went on stage. So before I was even at athlete check-ins, you know what I mean? I'm like, I already won. And it was just, anyone could, tell you from before, I was always positive and happy and everything backstage, but it was just a different level of, I really soaked it in. And especially my last show. I was only going to do one show, and then I was like, all right, let me do another one. Like, it was great. And I just tried to like video and document everything and just had just an awesome time, because I'm like, next up on deck was, we just got married and I want to have kids, like all that. So it's like, I'm going to enter that season. So it's like, who knows when the next time will be. So I really just soaked it all in. It was the best time ever. Like, I just was smiling the whole entire time. So it was great.
I love that. And you had gone, I mean, you have had a very successful, like many successful pro seasons, and you were able to evolve with the industry, and you're also evolving with yourself and your own personal goals. And I think bodybuilding is an amazing sport that really does contribute to other roles that we have, not just because of the routine or what we learn about ourselves and the overcoming of doubt or pain or struggle, or all these things, but it just contributes so much. And I would love if you could maybe cite some examples for you of how bodybuilding has actually helped you in other areas of life, or career, relationships, family.
Yeah. Oh, it in every aspect. I preach this. Like, if you don't take care of yourself, because so many people want to pour out to everyone else, right? They want to care for everyone. But I'm like, but if you're not caring for yourself, then you're never going to be able to give fully of yourself to those people that you care about. So that has helped me so much, just, learning the importance of feeling good for myself. That means I can, take care of my family a little bit better. And then the discipline that will never leave. It has forever changed me. I was talking with Asia about that the other day, and it was just like, bodybuilding has forever changed us because of the habits. You have to be militant with yourself sometimes, and set hard deadlines.
Mhm.
And I'm doing this at this time, and here's my schedule. And once you do that and prove to yourself that you can, sometimes you realize it makes life a little bit easier, because then your life isn't in just utter chaos and you're doing things just on a whim and you don't even know what's happening, But that helped me so much just in my career, and staying organized and knowing, okay, on this day I'm doing this, at this time I have this time blocked off, so that it's just not all willy-nilly. So that has helped. And then the confidence, the internal strength that just comes from being up on stage, from pushing yourself in the gym. Like, I'm sorry, but like, I know it has made me into an even more just confident person, just by having gone up on stage. You're being judged by a bunch of people you don't even know. Like, if you have the balls to do that, girl, I'm like, you can do anything. Like, you got some presentation at work, as long as you're prepared, you practice your posing routine, practice your presentation for work. It's just all those little details that all really does add up. So even if you decide, if you get on stage and you do it one time and you went through one prep, you'll never forget that prep. That's a core memory. Like, it's going to be there forever. But those little tools and strategies you learn along the way, they're going to stay with you as well.
Oof, yes, love that. And I think there's times where people walk away from competing, whether it's for an extended period of time or a short period of time, or it's, they're in their beginning stages even of a reverse diet or of their post show, and they're like, oh, I just want to get back on prep to feel like I'm in control, or I have this, that. It's like, let's take those skills from bodybuilding and see where else can we satisfy that desire to feel like there's structure and routine,
Mm,
and put
yeah.
it towards new focuses. And for you, it seems
Yeah.
like right now this new focus is, you just got married, now you want to have kids, you're already a stepmom. So walk us through like the vision for your life now, and how do you see like these experiences as an athlete impacting that?
Yeah. I mean, talk about like structure and everything, right? So, um, yeah, it's already, I've been involved with my stepkids and their lives, and, they've got school and drop off and pick up. And I've been like loosely a part of all of that, and just, scheduling things out, is like the easiest thing. I still have work to do when they're back home. And so we try to have like a set cutoff time. Like, okay, this is when we're done for like our work stuff. My husband, he works from home too. So it can be very easy to just, there's always emails, there's always admin work, there's always something to be done.
Mhm.
So having those like set times, like, okay, part of our schedule, and then this is family time, this is dinner time, this is when, it's good not only for us as adults, but also for the kids to set expectations so that they know. And so, yeah, we actually have back to school coming up this week. So summer's
Wow.
over. It's crazy. We're back into the grind of everything. So yeah, schedules will be super important, but it's all good. All good stuff. One of the things I was going to jump in on that you were
Yeah.
bringing up before, you were talking about, people wanting to jump back into prep. And I was like, oh, I want
Mhm.
to talk about this. And a lot of times when I have people who will reach out and they're interested in competing, if I ever hear someone who's like, I want to compete because I don't like how I look, or I'm like, that is, when we're talking about red flags, that is the biggest one right there.
Mhm.
Because like I said, your body will like, it's like for that moment in time that you're that lean and shredded and conditioned, like if you're doing it for a short term just because you want this look because you don't like who you are or how you look, I'm like, girl, it is not the answer. It is not the answer at all. So getting just, starting super slow and just following like a plan, following, you're just getting your training in, working on that mental side of things is like the first thing that I always recommend before you're just like, I want to do a show. Like, can I do it in 12 weeks? Like, I'm like, no. So I was like, oh, I was like, I had to tell you
Yes.
about that.
No, I'm so glad that you jumped in and said that because there are red flags. I don't think people know like necessarily when they get into it because they're just thinking I want the body, but it's like especially now, like if you're gonna compete in the NPC, especially
Mm-hmm.
now, like that body takes so much work, or you're gonna compete and then want to go into the IFBB. Like this is no joke. So you could do it for the body, but gosh, it's a much more attainable and healthy goal to like want to be like even the 10 week out, body of a competitor more
Yeah.
and like the health. And I think it's just like we have to be realistic. And I also think it's important to live the lifestyle before committing to a
Yes.
prep because it's like this bodybuilding, it can establish a lot of those routines, and a lot of people do end up, falling into healthy habits because of it. But it's a shock to go from being someone who like doesn't live this to then suddenly like do all those things. That's a lot to expect change wise all at
Yeah.
once.
And you can be met with a lot of resistance too from just like your family, your peers. And if you don't have the like mental fortitude to just handle that and be like, this is what I'm doing, then it's just hard. And then, you give in because you're trying to placate other people. And it's just like, then you're
Mhm.
never going to get there and you're going to be stuck on this vicious cycle. And it's just hard. You need to be like 100% dialed in and ready. And just, it's all you and not even caring about anyone else for that time frame, and not being mean about it or anything, like, but just being like, these are my goals and that's it. So, and I know for a lot of people that I've worked with and also for myself, when you don't make it as big of a deal, then it, like, most people just don't care. A lot of us are just like the human ego. We're all self-absorbed in our own little way. So, no one's going to be like heartbroken that you didn't eat their cake or whatever it is. Like, they might be like, no, have some, and you're like, no, no, like, and then they're like, okay, they move on. It's the next thing. Like, but sometimes we feel like, oh, we made them feel bad, or they're going to be mad at me that I didn't do this or have that, or honestly, most people just don't care. So as long as you don't make a big stink about it, like, "Ugh, I can't eat that because I'm on contest prep." Like, I'm like, get over it.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, stop. No one cares. So,
Oh,
uh,
I love that. So true. Like
the
the way we
stories.
talk about competing, or the way that we like justify or don't justify our behaviors, it teaches other people how to think about competing as well.
Very true. Yep. You like think of yourself as like an ambassador or like a representative for it. So how
Mhm.
would you like want people to view it? you know?
Yeah. And like, how do you want people to talk to you about competing? Like, oh, yeah, you can't eat that because you're competing. It's like, well, if they learn that from you always saying, I can't eat that because I'm on prep, can we really fault them for saying that?
the same thing. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So true.
So I think to that point, like you did mention earlier, you got to be ready to face some doubt or like naysayers, or you even said you had to prove yourself that you could do this again. So
Hmm.
what have you, and I also want to reference that your love for fitness spans beyond weights and bodybuilding. Like you've done rate running, and
Yes.
you've really proven to yourself you can do anything you set your mind to. So how did you personally like overcome those voices that maybe said you couldn't, and what have you done to build that confidence or esteem?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of it just really is like just this internal drive of, it, I had a lot of support along the way. I'm very, very blessed. My parents are very into fitness. I know my mom really got hardcore into it after my brother was born. So she's been into it. And then my dad, too. I used to go running with my dad. He would do some races. And so I've had their support basically from day one when I said, hey, I want to do this bodybuilding thing. And they thought I wanted to do women's bodybuilding. They weren't so supportive about that until they saw the pictures of like, oh, bikini. Okay, this looks great. So I mean, they were just like my number one fans, like and just so into it, and they would follow the sport. So I was very blessed on that. My job right out of college, I worked for Celsius, which is a supplement company, like the energy drink. And I was their brand ambassador, and I also worked in their marketing department. So they were also very supportive of those goals too. So it wasn't necessarily that I had, a lot of people in my life that were like necessarily like you can't do it. It's more because most people aren't like that. I feel, most people aren't going to be like, oh, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? It's more the little side comments of like, oh, there you go, you're eating this again. Oh, they don't eat that. Or, when you do decide to have something that's a little like more scandalous, it's like, oh my gosh, can you eat that? Are you sure that's okay? Like those little like snide
Yep.
remarks. So here's how I look at it. People behave in a certain way for the most part because it's a problem with themselves. It's not really a problem with you. It's their own internal issues. So a lot of times those people are probably a little envious in a way, kind of like, being like, wow, like I wish I could display that level of discipline. Or, I've got my LA Fitness membership and I haven't been there in 3 months. Like, so it's like those little jabs because of how they're personally feeling. Because like, how is you living your life like, really going to affect anyone? So once you recognize that it's not about you, it's about them, let them do their thing, and that's completely fine. um and then when it comes to just me and like, I think every person in a way, like no matter how confident you are, right? The biggest performers in the world, they're going to have some self-doubt about things. If it's, if they're a singer, they're releasing a new song, like, oh my gosh, is this going to be the song that's going to do it? And it's like, no, you know what? I feel confident in this and this is what I want to do. And you just go for it. And that's kind of like how I felt with me. Like, I'm not here to win money. I'm not here to make this my career of winning prize money, and having that's what I do. No, it's like I'm doing this because this is a hobby for me that I enjoy. And I love motivating others, and it's given me a platform to be an inspiration to different people. So that alone, and just showing people that, hey, you can do it. And I'm 34 now, so it's not like I'm some spring chicken coming out of college like I was.
Mm.
So that kind of thing, proving that. Having my husband, having my stepkids, having them be a part of my life and being so incredibly supportive too, but also balancing the juggling that comes along with that. Both of our families live here local, and our extended family is huge. So there's always a birthday, a celebration. We're going out, and navigating those events, like letting them know what's going on. They also have been very supportive too. So I think if you don't make it a big deal about what you're doing, in the sense of, like I said, that I can't, but making it a big deal in the sense of, hey, this is something that's important to me. The people who love you, they're going to show up for you. And the people who give you a hard time, maybe you just don't need to be around them. Like maybe it's just a good idea for you to check who you're hanging out with.
Mm.
So, because if you're just making your life better and challenging yourself, you know, you should want people to be supportive of that kind of thing. So that's how I look at
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
I
No,
love that. I love that mentality. Like it's very much, it changes it from being selfish or difficult to like you're enrolling people into your vision. You're letting them know why it's important to you, why it matters, and how it's going to help you too. And I think when people understand that, they want to be supportive. The right people want to be supportive, and they'll see that, and they'll
yes.
they'll want to help you see that through too. And I was actually hoping you could share like what, just kind of shifting gears to like your approach as a coach, because
Hmm.
you've been involved in the industry, you have this role, you're helping all these women, but what is like the bombshell approach and how does that work for you as you're coaching people?
Yeah. So with our programs, what we do is, you will be interviewed by our team director before you're accepted into the competitive program. And she'll have several questions that she'll ask you just to make sure that you're a good fit for the competitive team. If not, we would start you off with our Be Transform program so that you can learn those healthy habits that you need to have established prior to even thinking about getting on stage. Then from there, everybody's prep is different. I've got girls who are on like 2,000 plus calories a day, 15 minutes of cardio. God bless their metabolism. Like it's amazing, to people who are really having to like hardcore just diet them down just in order to see results. Every person is just different. So honestly, we would love to have everyone, keep those calories up high, keep the cardio as low as possible for as long as possible, so that you've got, bullets in the gun is kind of how I look at it. If we're, from 12 weeks out, got you on double cardio and, minimal calories, where do we have to go in order to elicit a response? Like this is going to be horrible. So really having the approach of when you're at that, 12-week out mark, that it's like that you're ready, that you can handle it. You're already doing your training and your cardio. And then it's like, we're just going to dial things in a little bit tighter, is kind of the way that we'd like to do it. And then with our programs comes a nutrition, like a meal plan from a registered dietitian as well. So you get your lifts, your cardio, that we have a private group that's only for our competitors as well. So it's kind of a support group, because obviously our transformation clients are going to have a different experience than a competitor is. They're going to relate in different ways. There's levels of fitness and what they're trying to accomplish. Their goals are completely different. So we have that. We have posing sessions that are offered on our private group pages, lectures that are offered. Our registered dietitian will get on there as well. We have mobility guides and core guides. There's like so many different facets of things that we offer that come with the program that I wish I would have had when I first started out. Like I started out, I was training at a CrossFit gym, and this wonderful husband and wife team, Mike and Casey Taylor up in Alabama, shout out to them. They took me under their wing. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just said I wanted to compete, but I just didn't know, and so then with the things that we offer here at Bombshell, just having all of this, the resources among the pro IFBB pro coaches, the experience, and then having the set meal plans and cardio and all the additional resources is just great. Like no one walks into a show being like, I don't even know what's happening. So it's really just all inclusive, so I love it for the members. If I was looking for something coming into it, it'd be a program that I'd be super interested in just because of what we offer.
I love that. And it's great that you are so aligned with it and you can say that because you've been through so many experiences. You've been in this industry for a long time and you have a resource that has tons to contribute, which is great. Plus your guys' live events, which are awesome. I freaking thought BombieCon was just so great and I hope to come back in the future because it was just amazing. And I love how much passion you bring and just sounds like you really found your spot. And I'm curious, like, do you see yourself working in the fitness industry long term? Do you plan to always be a Bombshell coach and continue this way?
Yeah, I since college, I've always been involved within the fitness industry. So from supplement company to in-person training and now mostly doing the online, like my passion for fitness is there. And my real passion is in person. So,
Mm.
and not in person, like one-on-one personal training, but more or less, kind of like what we did at BombCon. I love teaching classes. We do some VIP live classes on our private Facebook groups for Bombshell, doing those classes and having women on there. And, you know, that is where I get like super hyped and energized. My background's in communication studies. I actually thought I was going to be a
Mhm.
public speaking instructor. That was like my goal before I found fitness.
Mm.
So, getting to do the in-person like group stuff and just hyping everyone up, like I just become like alive from it. So I think I'll always, no matter what, be involved in the fitness industry in some type of, form or capacity. And then even when I wasn't like necessarily competing anymore, and this was before I was a Bombshell coach, but I had been coached by Bombshell.
Mhm.
I still consider myself a Bombshell, and I would still, come in and I would just guest coach for some of the big events, kind of like a BombCon event. And it's because I love that sisterhood and I love the camaraderie that comes along with it. So I feel like as long as Shannon will have me, I'd love to be around, because it's just, you get energized, you feel empowered, and you're around a bunch of like-minded women who are from all different walks of life. I mean, every age, religion, color, occupation. It's like we are all there. It's a huge melting pot. It's a global company. So when you have people all come and congregate together for the one like love of fitness and being a better version of yourself, I mean, for me, I'm like, I'm home. This is great. So that's why I've been around for 10 plus years with the company in some capacity.
Oh, that is so cool. I think it's like you find a family in the fitness community, really, especially when you're surrounded by the right people or people with similar values. And it's great to find the community that's best for you. And I'd love if you could now provide us with your best advice. Like, what's your best advice for someone who's never competed before but would like to? And then your best advice for someone on their road to pro.
Okay, so for someone who has never competed and you're listening in and you're like, "Ah, I really want to do this, but I don't know if I can." Girl, you can. You
Mhm.
100% can. This is your journey. Don't compare it to anybody else's journey, right? There's so many people who are vlogging their preps on YouTube that you can follow for inspiration, but use it just as that. Use it as inspiration to fuel your fire, as opposed to having it be a comparison journey. Like, how is she eating this? And I have to eat that. Or why do I have to do this much cardio and she's doing nothing? Like, it doesn't matter. If you play the comparison game in fitness, and if you play the comparison game just in life in general, you're never going to be happy. Just enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, soak it all in, and know that there doesn't have to be anything necessarily quote unquote special about you. Like I said, I didn't even start training until I was in college, but I found a love for fitness and it's changed my life in so many ways. And it's never too late to start. That's the other thing, too. You could be 50, 60 listening to this podcast. They have master's divisions, and some of those bodies are just amazing. So if you want to do it, know that you can, but you have to believe in yourself. You can't let anybody else do that hoping, wishing, and praying except for you. So that's my advice for my girls who are thinking about getting up there. And then for my ladies who are on the way to pro, basically the same thing. But
Mhm.
listen, it can be grueling. You get the girl who comes out of the woodworks from Oklahoma, goes and does one national show, and boom, she wins the overall. It's like, how did that happen? Right. So you've got those stories. And then you've got the stories of women who are just working hard. They've been grinding it out. They've been top national level competitors. And maybe that's you. Or maybe you've just been nationally qualified for the past couple years and you're just not cutting it. You're second, third, last call out multiple times in a row. So what I'd recommend, and this is what I did, because my first national show, I was hot mess express. I think I did my own self tan. My posing was atrocious. It was bad, y'all. I took a year, even though I was nationally qualified, took a full year until I was ready to get back on stage. Then I was doing my local shows and my national qualifying shows. and making sure that before I got on a pro qualifying stage, that I was either winning first, second, or taking that overall in my division before I would even set foot back again. So if you're feeling like, ooh, I'm, keep spending all this money and flying to nationals and this and that, girl, go back to your hometown and just kick everybody's butt so that when you show up and they see that you're there at check-ins, they're like, oh no, she's here. She's going to whoop my butt. Like, go in there, be a force to be reckoned with. Right. And then go to that national level stage and just go out there and own it. And then also looking at like your show path too. Remember, this is a subjective sport. And it's not like, oh, because the judge knows you, it's not political like that. No. But if someone sees and recognizes a face, they get used to, okay, what her body was. I gave her this feedback to, develop the glutes a little bit more pop in the hamstring tie-in, right? If you start making those changes and they recognize your name and your face and they're seeing you make those changes, of course, you're most likely going to probably get rewarded. It also depends on who shows up that day. But go and try to be in front of those top level judges too, so that, again, they recognize who you are. And it's just, I feel like that helps a little bit in the process too. So just little by little on everything. And yeah, just keep on showing up each and every single time. And then just believe in yourself is like the other thing that's just, don't worry again about anybody else's journey except for yours along the way. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing, and enjoy that time too, because once you hit the pros, it's a little bit harder. We're no longer in hype classes. It's a big open class. So take the most in, understand that in order to be an influencer, either online or just even in your own family, in your community, you don't have to be a pro. Just live that lifestyle, walk that walk. And so many people will admire you and be inspired by the things that you're doing. A pro card doesn't change everything. You're not just going to get sponsorships rolling in and a big payday. It's not how it works. Like, I think that pro mentality is something that just starts even before you've got an actual pro card in hand.
Absolutely. Love that advice for both newbies and those on their road to pro. You've just been so encouraging, and I've loved learning from you. And I know everybody else will love to continue to connect with you and learn from you. So how can they do that? And how might they be able to work with you too?
Yeah. So if you want to find me online, my socials are at Angeles Tchividjian. The spelling is crazy, for Facebook and for Instagram. And then I also have another Instagram account that's got some more fitness stuff, and that's just at Angeles_FitLife. And then if you'd like to work with me, you can go to bombshellfitness.com, or you could also send me a message online and I can get you all set up there. And then, yeah, we can talk about what track you're on, what your goals are. We can chat before all that kind of stuff, and see like what the best fit is for you and your journey and where you're at.
Amazing. I will put that in the show notes page too, especially because your last name is difficult to spell now.
Yes.
But I'll make sure all the links are there and your contacts there. So you guys, that's always at celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section. Everybody's name's alphabetized. You'll not only see all the ways to connect with the athletes, but you're also going to see full episode timestamps. So you can go back to specific points in this conversation that stood out to you, or you'll see a breakdown of the entire episode of topics that we've covered, which is great for recommending it to your friends and teammates. And again, I just really appreciate you guys listening week after week, or if you're new here, thank you for joining us. And Angeles, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. And I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.